Hello Kindred, welcome back to another BLOODHUNT video. In today's video, I wanted to talk about BLOODHUNT itself as a name out there in the BR world as it stands, where it's at in terms of performance and reception from the public, and where it could unfortunately end up if it's not careful. And then where I personally would love to see it go. All footage in the background is going to be captured from me off stream just to get some background while we discuss this today, and I hope you enjoy it. Again, before we get going, if you do decide you like this video at any point during it, hitting the thumbs up really helps the channel grow and I greatly appreciate it. Also, if you want to stay up to date with this game and how it progresses, consider subscribing. I've got some exciting new things that are coming. I'm going to be covering different games, so stay tuned for that. Anyway, let's get on with this video. Sharkmob released BLOODHUNT on September the 7th, 2021 on the Steam Early Access program, following some closed alpha tests with content creators and game testers. The reception was largely in agreement that there was certainly something about the game that they liked and they found to have potential. This largely carried over to the early access release to the public, and people like myself who had seen the odd bit of footage here and there thought, this looks interesting. A BR with vampires, scaling buildings in Prague and slow-mo jump shots with sliding whilst firing behind you. I'm in. I'm in. So I downloaded the game on day one and was just instantly hooked. The setting was dark, but the neon-lit streets filled the game with a hue that looked almost comic book style in aesthetic. Not to mention the punk rock looking customizable vampires. I thought, wow. Everyone says wait until you found your game, and by golly, I think I've done just that. But alas, here we are in November 2021. The honeymoon period is over. The jagged cracks in the tiles, which my doe-eyed former self ignored from excitement of having something new in my hands, have started to cut and make my feet bleed. Here is where I now believe it to be crucial that Sharkmob knock these next 2 months out the park, or sadly the player base of this awesome game could be more dead looking than the Nosferatu themselves. Let's first start out with the weapon tuning. This is something that's already been tweaked by the devs in hopes to get a fairer balance and a less of a dominating meta which prohibited you using anything else or suffer an annoying repeated death. For the most part, it has worked. The crossbow is now more of a tool to flush people out of hiding spots due to the fact that grenades don't feature in the game currently at all. Or if you score the direct hit, you still get the 100 or so damage, and overall it's just less spammy and more tactical. But now as I play more and more, the double-barreled shotgun seems to have far too much range for its damage output. It's a weapon which should reward players for getting close enough to the opponent to land both shots at point-blank range, not something that should be shooting vampires out the sky like bloody clay pigeons. It's frustrating and it doesn't make sense to the weapon type that it is. Shotguns should be extremely powerful close up, but anything after the point-blank to close range mark, they should feel inadequate and require you to swap to something more designed for a mid-range or long-range engagement. Next up is the Revolver. This is a gun that uses sniper ammunition for some reason, and seems to be a favourite gun for the hackers to use with their aimbots. Now we'll get to the hackers a little bit later on. As the damage output and deadly accuracy at range makes this pretty scary in the right hands. I do however believe the range in which it outputs its maximum damage profile should be decreased significantly. I've been sniped by the Revolver by a hacker who was on top of the cranes in Graveyard from halfway across the map and tapping me in the head. Why is essentially another handgun able to do more damage than a marksman rifle? I like the idea that in mid-range, if you're a headshot hitting god level player, that should be your gun of choice. Combining it with good movement and a proficient level of accuracy, you should be able to wipe people, but at range it's just absurd as it stands at the moment. This is my opinion, of course. Then we've got the TTK in the game generally. Now I personally loved the time to kill when I first started playing, but as time goes on, it may be a tad bit too long. The task of taking on multiple opponents at once is something that's extremely thrilling in BRs, especially when your movement and plays were ultimately what it took to win against the odds. But in this game, the length of time it takes to down a player can sort of stop those moments from being as regular as you like, and might make you not play for them as much unless you're absolutely 100% that you can get that first knock. This is something that people could just argue the childish, "Get good, kid!" But I'm merely just stating my thoughts on the matter here, and at the end of the day, I just want lots of people to be playing this game and having a good time. A slightly lower TTK might be worth a trial period to see what people think. That's just my personal opinion. Next up, we're talking about the cheaters. Now this was something I dreaded happening to this game. Firstly, the anti-cheat conspiracy stating that Sharkmob were using a spyware program designed as an anti-cheat got a worryingly large amount of attention. And sadly, I think a lot of people who don't like to think for themselves deleted the game in fear that their personal data was being extracted somehow. It turns out it's just a bug which left some trace files on the PC after deletion, which Sharkmob did address quickly and resolve in a patch. Anti-cheat aside, the cheaters are becoming more and more frequent. There is no in-game reporting system, and having to get the footage of the cheater in action to then send it to the devs in hope of them doing something about it is just too much effort for most people. And so the cheaters get away with it more and more, which encourages more and more cheaters. There are Discord servers sharing hacks and websites selling them. Undetectable aimbots, come get your aimbots, wall hacks, etc, and it's just so sad to see so early on in the game's life. I don't want to give the names of the sites or the servers because I don't want anyone to be tempted to take a look and potentially become the thing we all hate. Cheaters ruin online games. It sucks the legitimacy and fun out of everything a competitive game is. Sharkmob need to up their game with this anti-cheat because even running at a kernel level, hacks are being used and it's getting to the point where an eyebrow is being raised each time you get headshotted whilst in an animation which is typically difficult to track. It shouldn't be this way. We should be saying, good shot bro, not, oh, that's sus. I'm sure the development team are hard at work trying to combat this issue and have previously stated that more measures are going to be taken to make it more annoying for burner accounts to be made and hack with. And because it's a free-to-play title, it's the same story of infinite accounts can be made and log in to ruin people's day with their hacking. But this needs to be implemented yesterday, as I can see a lot of people in Reddit forums and other social media saying they're just fed up already. Again, sad to see so early on. Next, I want to mention some of the animations while climbing don't seem to be working properly still, and it's extremely jarring. When scaling a wall, you can sometimes come into contact with a glitchy and bugged animation, which makes your character uncontrollable for a brief period until you can eventually regain agency and manage to get over the lip of the wall that you were initially trying to climb. This breaks the immersion of the game and outlines where work is needed to be done to smooth out this experience and make it more consistent. So many times this has happened when I've tried to escape incoming shots and ultimately it just gets me killed. I really hope that by the time we're out of early access with this title, we can see improvements to the movement and climbing mechanics, as these are some of the best parts about the game. I've tried asking the devs directly on live streams and Twitter, and I had this response.
Okay, so I guess a more technical question. Nico42 is asking if we're going to smooth out the animations.
That's probably the animation compression. That's a performance thing.
Is that like animations between?
It's when you see.
Oh, at the far, yeah.
For the distant players.
Okay.
That essentially that's our animation loading happening, so to save performance, and we are gonna work on performance, and there is performance improvements in this patch as well. They're not like the end-all performance improvements, but it will affect everyone.
As you can see, it's not exactly clear what they meant by that, but my question was specifically about these climbing animation bugs. I hope they can get that sorted because competitive environments need to make sure we're all dying to play a skill and not the game being unpolished. So where I see this game going, the PS5 launch seems to be the most searched term when looking up BLOODHUNT, and it has potential to bring a truckload more players to the game. But bringing them to the game is one thing, keeping them there is another beast entirely. As it stands, the controller support in the game is, in my opinion, absolutely horrible. As a controller player myself, I opt for the mouse and keyboard to play this game, even though I'm a novice at best when it comes to mouse accuracy and not fumbling my fat thumbs all over the keys. I've improved a lot since playing this game, but it still makes me wonder what the controller is going to feel like come the PS5 launch. Sharkmob have previously spoken about aim assist in their live streams, and not wanting an aim assist that does too much for the player in terms of staying on target. They stated they don't want any drag with it, and it begs the question, will the game be fun to play for the PS5 guys? Will they stay? Will there be crossplay allowing the player pool to expand? I hope that after this deal with Sony, which was obviously to release on their console first, we hear news about the game coming to the Xbox Series S and X players and have total crossplay spanning across all platforms. I believe this is crucial to the game's longevity. The PS5 launch is the main topic of the next developer livestream, which at the moment has no date that we can expect it. But I will be keeping my eye on their socials to find out when it happens, and will certainly make another video after it's aired talking about it, so anyone interested, stay tuned here. So after we have the Ventru clan added, which is apparently according to the roadmap happening before the PS5 launch, we have all those eager PS5 guys ready to jump in as soon as they can, which is great. The competition is extremely high in the free-to-play Battle Royale genre, and Sharkmob have more than competent members of their team who have previously worked on Battlefield titles among others. This game still has the potential to be a contender if they can get it running to the quality which people expect these days. Also, the loading into match times needs to be shorter too. It really sucks the fun out of the game, waiting so long just to deploy. That's just a spare note. We need to see more weapons added, further clans join the mix, new areas of the map open up, eventually a new map entirely. This one is likely very far off from happening. More tweaking and balance changes, and as many cosmetics as they can possibly make. We could also see Elysium more fleshed out. I love the idea of picking up quests from there. It adds a sort of RPG feel to the game and makes the runs a bit more interesting for those who don't just want to go out in Prague to spill blood. More choices of modes would be nice to see in the future too, and a training room to practice movement and see the damage of weapons to decide what players like best, instead of just taking a gamble during a match. I mean, the list goes on, but I really hope Sharpmob are aware of the ongoing work that will need to be done in order for this game to be a full success. I'm in no way saying this is a bad game, by the way, this is just a disclaimer. I'm just merely throwing my 5 cents into what I think could make the game a lot more enjoyable and ultimately make it last longer. I love the style, and when it's working right, it feels amazing. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. I will be sticking with Bloodhunt and see how it progresses. It will be interesting to see how it blossoms after future improvements and the console players being added to the mix. But until next time, I'll catch you in the next one.